Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on this planet. We welcome you to another Spiritual Light. And I say hello to Silvia Gibbons and Charles Kempf today with us here.
Hello, nice to see you and nice to be with everyone. Apologies for the late start. This is an interesting topic so it'll be interesting to talk about it. So it's nice to see you, Munir, and nice to see you,
Thanks,
Charles,
Silvia.
and
Likewise.
start a meeting in peace and love. Okay.
Wonderful.
Right.
Yes, good evening. Good afternoon, Munir. Good evening,
Good afternoon,
Silvia. Good
Charles.
morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Apologies also for starting a little bit late today. Our friend Stevan is unfortunately busy for his work. This happens, huh? And Munir stepped it at the last minute. So thank you so much, Munir, for
Our
this.
pleasure.
And let's go and then talking about this golden rule.
Wonderful. So the topic of today is the Golden Rule. And perhaps I'll invite Silvia to say a few words about the topic of today.
Yes, well, the golden rule. It's a very interesting rule, and is as old as man himself. It's interesting because this is one of the basic premises of Christianity, but something that comes from long before Jesus. Actually, some of his messengers who came before him, because amazing as Emmanuel tells us in his message, is that this existed in almost every culture. They had the Egyptians, they used to say, do not let it pass everything, to others that you want for yourself. The Hebrew people, the Jewish people also had this rule. The Persians, the ancient Persians, also had a rule: do to others as you want them to do to you. The ancient Greeks had that as well. Don't do to the others what you don't want them to do to you. And it's very interesting, because even in the Romans had, love uh, if, your fellow beings as you would want to be loved. So it's quite interesting to see that this rule, as they call it, has been with almost every culture in the world. And of course, when Jesus said it, he really put a stamp on it. And a lot of people see this as a Christian precept, but something that comes from quite a long time. And so it's important for us to think about this and how relevant this still is, in the days that we are living. And I think more than ever is something that we really needed to meditate on and practice, because I think one of the points that Emmanuel makes is that before the saying was there in every culture, but what the difference that it became a precept of Christianity and accepted it, because Jesus not only said it, but he lived it. He was a living example of this: love your neighbors yourself and do to others as you want them to do to you. And I think that's what he made the difference there, because he lived it rather than just think that was a beautiful words and nice to other people to do. Like normally we always want other people to do things that we think, but Jesus, no, he was a living example. And I think we should be a living example as well. But I leave open to you as just an introduction. We have more to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvia. And Charles, would like to hear what you have to say on the topic.
Yes. So Silvia is totally right. I mean, what I'm often repeating, sorry for repeating it again, is what we can find in the Gospel. Kardec already classified it in several parts. And the one part is the history of what happened with Jesus. The other part is what has been used by the churches to build their dogmas. But there is all these parts are discussable, but one part is not discussable, which is the one where we have the moral teachings of Jesus. And this one is really, when we go really into it, universal. So in the Gospel according to Spiritism, Kardec has developed only this part. All the polemic part subject to discussion, he has just left aside. But the one with the moral laws, like do unto the other what you would like the others to do unto you, this one is undiscussable, is unshakable, as we say. And Silvia, you are right. I mean, this same sentence, or not the same sentence, but the same idea and the same principle exists in almost all the other religions around the world. Maybe a little bit different form, a little bit different, adapted to different cultures and so on, but basically saying the same thing. And this is really the eye-opener, confirming that there is indeed a universal moral, which is acceptable for everyone. And I was very lucky to be in year 2000 invited to participate to the Millennium World Peace Summit organized by the United Nations. It was in New York, in the main headquarters of the United Nations, where were gathered something like 3,000 or 4,000 people, which were representative of something like 400 religions are all around the world. You had really everything. Religions or spiritism was also invited. You had also a lot of modern New Age movements and so on. And interestingly, at the end of this summit, a commitment has been elaborated and was signed by. It was not all the 400 present representatives for the movements. It's all but 2. So 398 out of 400 signed that commitment with basic principles like education of children, act to stop wars, against discrimination, and a lot of basic principles like this that basically everyone around the world agrees to it. It's just a pity that this has a little bit lost momentum. There was a subsequent meeting, but it was already somehow influenced, or I don't know how to say that. It was not so neutral anymore as the first one, which occurred in New York. It was most oriented through Oriental religions like Buddhism. And then I did not hear a lot anymore continuation about this. It's really a pity. But what happened that year, in year 2000, was really a opener, showing that this golden rule, as we are saying today, are existing and are universal. Because according to Spiritism, to the Spiritist body of knowledge, the definition and the referential, the criteria for good and evil are the laws of nature, the natural laws. It is not what is written in the Spirit's book or in the Gospel according to Spiritism. Not at all. All what is good is what is in harmony with the natural laws, and all what is bad or evil is what is not in harmony with natural laws. So this referential is universal. So what is in harmony or not with the referential which is universal is also universal. And this is a principle that Kardec established very clearly when he was doing his work in the mid of the 19th century. So he wrote the gospel according to Spiritism. So this is colored. When we say gospel, it's about Christianity. But we could very easily write the Vedas according to Spiritism, the Quran according to Spiritism, or the Buddhism according to Spiritism, because of what we just said. I mean, this golden rule, this moral is universal, and it's just sent to take the form of these sentences, which is a little bit different for each religion, and then to compare it with the other one, showing the universality of it.
Oh, thanks. Very nice, Charles. Yes, I think that in every aspect of life, what life tries to do based on natural laws is to find balance. And I think this golden rule is the way that we can find balance in human relationship, because it's fair, it's just. So we see that is actually a way the practicing of this golden rule. And as Silvia has mentioned, has been in so many cultures in at different times. If Silvia mentioned the Chinese, also the Persians, and she mentioned the Egyptians, the Romans, the Greeks, and so we see, because it's natural, it appears at different time in different places, and we see that is a way of having not a chaotic, but a just a harmonious way of living. That's why I think it's such an important rule. We call it golden rule. But there is one question I'd like to ask to Silvia, because Jesus emphasized that so much, and we see Spiritism also emphasizing it so much. And we also have that, without charity, there's no salvation, and charity is nothing but, a way of seeing the others just as ourselves, wishing, to other people what we wish for ourselves, is a way of, practicing charity. So, Silvia, why do you think that Jesus in the Gospels put so much emphasis, not in the Gospels himself? I mean, they wrote that in the Gospels, but Jesus, his life was always, a way of emphasizing this golden rule. And if it's still, in use today, it's still relevant today.
Yes, I think one of the things, going from what you and also Charles was saying, this is a universal rule, and it's part of the natural laws, because I think sometimes people enclose Jesus in a little box to suit them. And I think first and foremost, Jesus was a universal teacher. He didn't say that only those who followed him would be saved. But of course, if you follow some of the things that he taught, it becomes easier because he shows us a path. But I think he even put an emphasis in people who, even those who don't believe in God, can also be saved. I mean, it doesn't interpret me as being saved in a sense, but enlightenment is for everyone, because one thing that I always think is that Jesus said, not all those who say Lord, Lord will enter the kingdom of heaven, but those who do the will of my Father who is in heaven. So it can be absolutely anybody. And I think one of the things about the golden rule, that he not only, he taught in his teachings, but he also lived it every single moment, is something that is individual choice. We ourselves can choose to live a life like that. That is, I think one of the most beautiful things, I think, in Spiritism, that it teaches us with all the things, with a very firm root based on the gospel, is that you can do anything you want. Spiritism has no rules to forgive, to forbid. Absolutely, you can do whatever you want. But it also teaches us that we need to be responsible for the consequences of what we do. And we are free to do whatever we want, and we are also free to receive whatever we create in doing what we want. we have the consequences, and we have to live through them, and we have to readdress the wrongs we cause, and all that sort of thing, which I think is really important and is so balanced, because what we have is individual choice. I choose to be the certain way. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I don't like people. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be rude to people, and that's fine. If that's the choice that people make. But what happens? Do do I want to be treated that way? Do I want people to ignore me, or when they meet me to say, "Good morning, how are you?" Do I want to be treated with respect? Do I want to be treated with consideration? Do I want people to like me because I'm a nice person? And if I say yes, I do, then I have to do to others what I want them to do to me, because people will react very much the way we treat them. Of course, if we upset people all the time because of our manners and everything. But also, I think one of the important thing for me as well is that it's, in a way, it's irrelevant really how people will treat you, because that will be their choice, their problem. I think in being kind and respectful and considerate to other people makes me feel better with myself. And I think if you think in terms of the how out how much it reaches this golden rule, it's first and foremost is for ourselves. I like to be treated well, so I'm treating everybody well. I'm sure that at one point in our lives, in our experience, we're going to find people who treat us very badly indeed, because they just don't like the color of our eyes, or they don't like the way we speak, or whatever. Some people are free to like and dislike others. But it doesn't matter, because I think the good we do is always good for us. And the bad that other people do to us is their problem. Our responsibility is what we do. So this golden rule applies for our individual selves, and it's a matter of choice. It's a matter of thinking about it. How I want my life to be, how I want it to come across people, how I want it to reach out to anyone. You talked about charity. Charity is extremely important, especially we are living in situations which I personally find it quite shocking, that I'm living in one of the biggest, the most important cities in the world. And you go to the supermarket and there is a box there to give food, because there are people in this very town don't have enough money to buy food. And this is everywhere. Before, if you live in a big town, wealthy, you didn't have this kind of things. There was social security and everything. But now there is these things. And so, of course, we give charity for, put some food there whenever we can. And we are kind, to people. We give money if we can, whatever. But I think one of the things as well that the gospel according to Spiritism teaches us, the teachings of the Spirit teaches us, that sometimes being quiet when someone quite silly is saying something is a charity. Sometimes if someone is actually mistreating you and treating you as if you are a poor relation, or someone's not worthy of their time, you just,
Okay.
if just being quiet and accepting it is a charity. And but sorry, we fell for a minute. My internet just went down. So, oh, You see you there.
Yeah.
In
We
terms of
lost the last 30
charity,
seconds.
it's
Yeah.
it's this kind of charity as well. Sorry, did you miss everything I was saying? Sorry, I'll repeat very quickly. What I was saying is that sometimes charity, and this is one of the major teachings of the spirituals in the Spiritism, is that sometimes charity, financial charity, is okay. You must do it because you help people. And if you have more, it's good to help others. But they also tell us that charity sometimes is just if someone is mistreating us because they think we're not important enough, and they dismiss us. And okay, we accept it. It's a charity. If someone saying something really silly and stupid, and you're listening to it, you're not going to discuss with them. Being quiet is a charity. There is so much more being charitable, and I think this is all part of this golden rule. Because maybe the person doesn't know enough, or maybe they do know but they think they're more important than everybody else, and so you have to respect the way they are, because you need to have other people to respect the way you are. And so charity, the financial is important, but also be charitable. Someone sometimes can be quite unkind, or they behave in a certain way, or things like that. It's charity as well, just being quiet, just accepting it. There is many ways to be charitable, and I think the easiest charity is to actually drop money. I remember in the little book called Jesus at Home, Jesus no Lar, there is one of the stories there says there is this man who he's sitting there, and but what he wants to do, he wants to cross the road because the horses, the carts, and everything, and he can't see very well when he walks very slowly, and he wants help. But everybody keeps dropping money to him because they think he's sitting there because he wants money. And what he wants is to help to cross the street. But he's not even given the opportunity to ask for help because everybody just drops the money and goes off. And I always remember this story because it's so important. And I saw as well someone once talking in a program that I watched. He was blind, and he said sometimes he's in the street, before he had his dog even, and people just take hold of his arm and cross the street with him without even asking him if he wants to cross the street. Sometimes he said a couple of times he had actually crossed the street twice because he was just trying to find himself how he would continue on the pavement that he was in. He wanted to go somewhere, and he was just trying to place himself to turn and do it. But people just grabbed hold of his arm and put him on cross him to the other side. And it's so interesting this because it's we needed to talk to people. We needed to pay attention. We needed to see what their needs really are. Sometimes they don't want anything. Sometimes they just want someone to talk to them. Just saying good morning to someone is very important, just allowing them to express what they're feeling. So charity, it's all of this, but also it's a part of the golden rule. And I think that's why Jesus made an emphasis of this. And it's interesting because if you read the stories of the gospel, he never went and just healed people. He would always say, what do you want me to do for you? What do you expect of me? If you read the stories of the gospel carefully, he would always ask, what do you want me to do for you? And then he would always say, I didn't do it. Your faith healed you. Your faith cured you. you know. And I think this is a lesson to remember in our dealings with people. And I find that it's extremely challenging for me these times that we are living, because I was talking to my brother the other day, and he was saying the same thing, that sometimes it feels as everything that we've learned that was right, what is required of us, how to behave, how to be, it's now seems to be unacceptable, you know. And so I, like many other people, I'm sure, we live in times now that we don't quite understand what is going on around us, that everything we seem to have learned seems to be not what is acceptable anymore. So we need to hold our ground and be with our principles. And I think really remember this role to allow people to be what they want to be, and to have that kind of charity as well, which is so inclusive in the golden rule. So I don't know if I answered the
Wonderful.
question.
Just to build on a little bit what you said, there is a definition of the charity in the answer of the question to the question 886 in the Spirit's book, and it is saying, what is charity? And that's a question. The answer is benevolence towards everyone, indulgence towards the imperfection of others, and forgiveness for offenses. So it's indeed much more than just throwing a coin. And if we really see benevolence towards everyone, indulgence towards the imperfection of others, and forgiveness for offenses, if we really would be a majority of the humanity following this principle, there would not be any war anymore. There would not be all this violence. There would not be hundreds of millions of people not having, not even necessary to eat or to drink. And so this is why this charity is really the basis of everything. And I think also it's another principle that Kardec told, to take the measure. What we would like for us, to do for the other what you would like for us, is how to say, an excellent criteria, because when we can find no guide to take as an example that is more guaranteed in this respect than what than we should do to the others, what we would like the others to do unto us. Because with which right would we claim the other doing for us more than what we do for them? God does not give any privilege to anyone. We have all been created the same way. Simple and ignorant means with no science, and we are progressing. There are, of course, spirits who progressed much more than us, like Jesus, for instance. But one day, even the worst, the less evolved one on the earth, will grow, evolve, and become, reach the same level as Jesus. For me, of course, it will take a long, very long time. But I will get there. So there is, it's just a question to work, to go, to understand this very simple criteria Jesus left us more than 2,000 years ago already. And at least we give the example, because we have to do to the others what we would like the others to do unto us, even if they don't do it. And that is really what we call lead by example today. That is really what we call spiritual intelligence nowadays. Work in a team, benevolence, this benevolence of the definition of charity across the team members. At the end, the teamwork is much more efficient than we in a team where everyone is competing against the other, trying to find first or to take out the best in a selfish way. And this golden rule is really also everything about than just making selfishness to disappear, because the selfishness is really at the root of all the miseries we have, of most or almost all the miseries we have in humankind. And nowadays, the things are getting more and more difficult. We can see wildfires, we can see tornadoes, we can see hurricanes, we can see a lot of hail and whatever is happening due to action of humankind and the effect of this action onto the climate. So everything will get more difficult. And on the other hand, the resources of the earth have a limit. Today we are asking lithium. Well, we want to make everything batteries, and batteries need lithium. Okay, but where is the lithium to build these batteries? There is not enough lithium to change, to have the same quantity of cars and kilometers run as we have today with fuel or with crude oil at the beginning, which is sending more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere and making the greenhouse effect even worse. So we will come out only of this situation through this charity. There is no other way. If humankind wants to survive to these growing difficulties of climate, of heat, which is not affordable for human being anymore in more and more regions around the world, with billions of people having to move to colder regions in order to survive. If we do it with charity, with benevolence, we will get it. Otherwise, what will happen if we think we can just put some bombs and whatever? It's a destruction. Humankind may disappear totally from the earth. So we are somehow, Jesus was leading this example, and Kardec was also confirming very clearly when he wrote on the cover page of the Gospel According to Spiritism, that without charity there is no salvation. And today it's a question of survival of the humankind. Of course, we can also think, no, because we will find renewable, we will manage to make energy out of waste or whatever. Okay, still it has to be demonstrated. And for sure, we will not be capable to continue consuming, polluting, wasting goods and energies as what we are doing today. But with a charity, with a golden rule, there will be absolutely no problem. Even if 6 billion humans have to receive 2 billions, it will be possible, because in my house we are 6 people. To have 2 more, it's not a problem. We can manage, we can squeeze a little bit ourselves, and we can put 2 people more without any problem, any difficulty. So it's just doable, but it needs to remove the selfishness. When we come and say, why me? Why should I do an effort for these people? It's not my problem. It's not in my country whatsoever. There we reach nothing when we go to nowhere. So it's really this. Without charity, there is no salvation. There will be no salvation for the humanity, at least on this planet. And should we go to the worst scenario and destruct the conditions of living of the humanity on the planet, then we will have to find another home, another planet where our spirit can go, and finding charitable people in order to accept us reincarnating there for continuing our evolution.
Wonderful. Both of you mentioned something that is very important in this topic, that is actually what we do, not what other people do to us.
Exactly.
As Charles mentioned, the verb, you would like them, not that, they did or they do to you. So we have to, look at ourselves and check our behavior and follow these golden rules. And as you mentioned, Charles, I think the key to survival for humanity is actually to work together in group. And to work in a group, we know the difficulties of relationship. But if we follow the rules of charity, if we follow the definition of charity, benevolence, indulgence, and we apply that in our daily lives, in all circumstances, we will find a harmonious way to live in group, to live together, and then to have solution for our problems. And I was going to ask, but you both answered already. You know, there's no salvation without charity. There's no salvation from what? From hell? Well, we know Spiritism shows that hell does not exist as such. Many people don't believe, you know, although some people are even religious, but they don't actually believe in their own religion, because they say, oh, no, this is, you know, a story, just a fairy tale or something, but they are not afraid of heaven as such, of a hell as such. And so salvation from what? And I think you mentioned something, these situations that we as humanity are facing now, the situations, and also as individuals, because we have to, you know, look after ourselves, our progress. And the way to look at ourselves individually is to caring for the group, to caring for our role in society with, you know, with other people. There is also in the gospel the example. Charles, you'd like to say something? Yeah.
If I may, I just remembered now, I mean, the latest news we have seen is in Hawaii. It's terrible, isn't it? And this will happen more and more.
Yeah.
We know it. It's scientifically obvious. No need of long demonstrations.
Yeah.
So really, it's time now to, okay, what do we do? How do we do to stop this, or to prevent this, the consequences of it, if it happens again? How can we make that it gets not even worse in the future? So this goes clearly, we have to tighten a little bit our belt, and it's better to do it voluntarily, as this initiative to do what we would like the others to do unto us. Okay. We wouldn't like the others having polluting and sending a lot of tons of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So let's not do it. Let's avoid. Let's have a slim way of life. Let's eat half of the quantity we are eating today, as Emmanuel teach to Chico Xavier. Let's follow some basic, very simple rules like that. Let's cut all what is superfluous and really focus to the necessary. And even charity is giving a little bit of our necessary to the one who don't have the necessary. And all these simple rules, we really have, how to say, to build them in ourselves, that it becomes a way of life.
Yes, a way of life, despite religion, despite anything else. I think,
Exactly.
yes, it's something that
Universal
humanity
way of
should
life.
follow. Yes, it's a way of life. And we see, for instance, in the case of food, you know, there's, you know, tremendous number of people starving in the world, whereas there's enough food for everyone. What causes that? What is the reason for that? You know, if it's not the lack of charity, the lack of you know, wishing for others, you know, what would like them, you know.
I made an exercise recently for for a short presentation I made, and I was comparing where are the, I think, 700 million people lacking food. They are basically in something like 10 to 12 countries. And when we check also the corruption perception index, which is published by Transparency International NGO, you can see that almost all these 12 countries where the people have not enough to eat are also the one with the highest perception of corruption. So it's amazing. So there is help. But the help does not get to the people because it is deviated, it is absorbed by the corruption before it reaches those poor people. Yeah. So there are a lot of things like this. So it's difficult, because should we really intervene in the inner, because to stop corruption in a country, it's difficult to make it stop from outside, from another country. But we really should think about, should we really have some means in order to force, or to, how to say, strongly motivate these countries to have this corruption being stopped, and how to do it in the smoothest way? All these questions have really to It's part of this charity, but not charity just let's try to do it intelligently. Let's try to seek the root causes. Of course, killing the selfishness is helping to kill the corruption, but sometimes a lot of people, they do not hear it. And with only a very small portion of the population corrupted, you have the worst situation in a given country. So we really should think about the means to overcome this.
Yeah, and we also bring into context, the maxim that Jesus said, "Love God above all things," and because we can't understand God at this point, we should love God's, attributes. So trying to, inspire ourselves in the attributes: justice, love, and compassion. So all these virtues, should guide us. And love our neighbor as ourselves, And charity is love in action. Because when we love someone and want to do something, about that, we are actually putting our love into action. Otherwise, love will be just something, beautiful, and but there's no real action related to that. And I think it's really important, and charity done in so many different ways. And also when we try to be better people in the context that we are in the society that we are doing, whatever we are doing, when we try to improve ourselves in that sense, we are already doing charity, because we can offer something better, something closer to what Jesus taught us as we move forwards. So yes, and I think the world now is having to face situations that will how would I say, will actually take people from this comfort zone and start to question them, especially in terms of empathy, because you say, oh, that country, as you mentioned, Charles, that country is so far away from me. Oh, why should I bother about the floodings there, or starvation there, or whatever? Here, I'm not exposed to that. War and corruption or whatever. But then slowly you realize that we are part of this large group. You're on the same planet. Whatever they do there will affect me somehow, someday, and vice versa. So having this sense of a huge global community, which we slowly are getting there, especially when we have to face this situation that we are facing now. Communities wiped because of a wildfire or floodings, or too much snow or whatever.
And
so
Munir, there is one additional argument that Spiritist body of knowledge is bringing, is the reincarnation. So we can reincarnate next life in Sudan or in Ukraine or wherever. And also when we talk about global warming, it's my children, my grandchildren, but the children of our grandchildren can be us again. So we will come back and having to suffer what we have prepared in the last decades. So it's one more argument into this golden rule. Let's do unto the other what we would like to do the other to do unto us, knowing that by the law of cause and effect, the law of action and reaction, all what we are seeding, we will have to harvest it at the end, whether it is good or not.
Indeed.
Just a point here that what you said about God, in the gospel, according to Spiritism, but the Spirit teaches us that we love God and we love our neighbors ourselves, like Jesus said. But also, we cannot love God if we don't love our neighbor. And so to love God, you need to love your neighbor first. And then you can, if you say, oh, I love God, but you don't love your neighbor, you don't love God. So it's there's a very, very important, because like sometimes a lot of people say, oh, God doesn't exist, it's an idea. There are a lot of debates and everything, uh, but I think to love your neighbor, to be helpful, to be um, considerate, it's a way of loving God that we can understand. Is within our reach to understand the nature of God if we love our neighbor, because otherwise we cannot really love God or understand it, or anything. I think also the thing about, oh, it doesn't bother me. I think now the world is changing. I was watching the news the other day. I don't usually do that anymore because it's depressing. But when I saw a city, a town in Hawaii, that was completely destroyed by fire. And whenever I remember watching movies about Hawaii, there was always raining. It's a tropical place. It's paradise. It's paradise on earth, the place. That's how it was. And Maui, people go there on holiday because it's going to paradise. And whenever I saw movies or anything about, it was always raining. They did have that rain all the time, beautiful flowers and everything. Now, to have a fire who destroys all the forest, it means that there hasn't been raining for a long time. You know, this year here in England, we are very lucky. We've been having lots of rain, although in some places there has been lots of flooding and everything, but it's been raining and it hasn't been so hot. But in some parts of of Europe, it's terrible because it's very, very hot, isn't it, Charles? Charles is down there in the continent, and it's like an inferno. In some places in Greece and Italy, and now in France as well, there is horrible fires. So it means that there is no rain, and it affects everyone. But because now you can't say that. Oh, it doesn't affect me, because it does. Because if you receive food, now with a lot of the transports and everything, people don't eat from their local places anymore like they used to. It affects, because if they had a fire there, they had a destruction, they won't be sending us any food this time. And it will be a way of affecting everyone, because it does affect everything that hurts other people, hurts us. I think Khalil Gibran, he had this phrase that everything that hurts my brother hurts me. Because I am part of humanity. So if someone is starving in Cambodia, it hurts me, because we are part of, we are all brothers and sisters in God's eyes, and this is very, very important, because we fear hell, but we live in hell sometimes, and it's up to us to change that. And individually, we can choose to do that. And I think that is the great lessons that we learn, because I think, the kingdom of heaven is not something that if you be good and you follow some rules, you will achieve. But the kingdom of heaven is the one you build in yourself. That's where the kingdom of heaven, is to bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. And it sometimes is quite shocking, because we have almost everything now. Technology extremely advanced and everything. I remember once talking to this elderly lady in England, and she said the best times she had was during the war, which seemed absurd, even absurd to think about it. But she said, if her mother had 3 potatoes and the people next door didn't have any, she would give them one. And would be the same thing for them. People share food. Some people had their house bombed. They couldn't go back. They would move in with the neighbors, or they lost family. People would bring, take children and everything. And it's incredible, because I think sometimes when we human beings, when they are the very worst, is when they are better, because somehow when affects them, they start being kind to people, and I think that some of the things that Charles says, maybe now, instead of be, having garages for cars. I remember when I first came to England, everyone had a garden. Every single person had a garden. Now you go out around, even here where around I live, because it's full of parks. I live in a good area, it's full of parks and everything. But people don't have front gardens anymore. They have a place to park their cars. Even here now is the same, and that, of course, is where the rain would go into the ground. And because I think one of the biggest problems that the earth is facing is fresh water. It really is. Because when you see, I was talking about this the other day, which because it impresses me, when you have a river like the Euphrates drying up, the birth of civilization as we know it was born between the two rivers, Mesopotamia, and now the river is dried. It's a major thing. It's a serious thing. That's why we're having all this fire. That's why, in Italy, the temperature is nearly 50 degrees in the summer. That used to be, temperature that you had in the Nefu desert, in the middle of the Arabian desert. So we need to change our ways. We need to maybe start planting our own food, sharing things, because like another thing as well. I talk about England because here's where I live. I knew of 3 different people who had a plot. They had a place of land that they used to give to people, so you could rent this and plant whatever you wanted there. We almost don't have those things anymore. Now it's all buildings. So, that's one of the problems as well. Is this building things and all the time this growth, forgetting about nature, forgetting, having a lot of constructions near river places, where the flood and floods everything. That's why we have so many floods, because people living by the rivers. So anyways, that's one thing to change, and to think how we ourselves make a choice. If each one of us make a different choice, I think is better for everyone. Sorry, I went on too long.
Just we have here with us our dear friend Elsa, Rossi. Humankind did not achieve this understanding about God, true God, Father, Mother, God, but eventually we will be there. Yes, and I think all these that has been happening now is actually to call our attention to something that we are missing. And as it's been said, give to God, Jesus said, give to God what belongs to God, and to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. So we shouldn't just, take away out of our daily lives, what is promoting us spiritually, and only take into consideration, the material values we can gain with things.
Yeah, I just one thing very quickly. We don't have anything like Mother God, Father God, because according to the spirits, God is an intelligence, the first cause of all things. So I don't think we should compare Mother and Father God. We say Father because, the way Jesus said it, but we shouldn't confuse this.
Yeah, we have also friends from Iberoamerica Espírita. Hello, friends. Nice to hear you. Yeah, Uruguay. Regards from Uruguay.
Hello, everyone in Uruguay. Hope you're well.
We also have here Lou. A very nice talk. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
It's indeed a difficult talk, isn't it? Because it's not very popular. You tell to someone, tighten the belt. Nobody likes to tighten the belt.
No.
But let's get used to the idea. Let's really do it. Tighten the
But we
belt
have to do it anyway, and I think we're doing already.
exactly.
Because even you go to the supermarket, if you go late in the afternoon, there is no more milk.
Yes, and also the inflation. I mean,
Expensive things that you don't like.
the scarcity of the resources of our mother, the earth, is reducing because we have taken everything. So now it's getting scarce. More scarcity is making the price increase, and difficulties. The worst is always because of the poor people first. They will suffer most out of it. So I think it's really a mindset that we have to build in ourselves. We will have to tighten the belt sooner or later. So let's start now. Let's do it smoothly in a controlled way and not suffer it in a sudden, sharp way.
Yeah, and the need for change, individually and collectively, is knocking at our door. It's better to open before it breaks into our house, and takes everything apart, because the need is here already. It's not there, it's here.
No,
It's urgent for us to change our behavior. And I think the golden rules are sort of rules that we should follow, or the golden rule and everything we've discussed. They should guide us in adopting, a new behavior,
but in a way, I think, because I don't think it's to adapt. I think we need to maintain our moral standards, and what there are teachings that are a moral guidance for us, and we shouldn't try to change that, because I think we should go back maybe to a time. Not everything, but a time that people helped each other. People were considerate. I mean, I remember even when I was a child, we always had our bags to go to the market. We never had plastic bags. We always had the bags. You always plant something. My grandmothers, I don't think we ever bought any lettuce or any vegetables or anything. Everything was in the garden. She just planted it, and she had a little plot, and it's extremely. And I think now, like I said, people are transforming their gardens into car parks. The allotment, a lot of allotments, they used to be here in England, not one. Now is a building there. You see, and you see the foxes. I mean, we have foxes here in a garden because their environment has been destroyed. And you go by the river now, is this one expensive, luxurious building after another. And the poor foxes, the poor animals are completely, have nowhere to go, So I think we need to be considerate to all nature. And to, I think the principles of Spiritism, as far as I am concerned, are immutable. The reality that we have to follow, that's the future. When I studied the Spirit's book, I don't think we have even understand 1% of it. When science progresses and go more and more advanced, then we'll begin to understand that. That's not. I don't think it's up to changes or inclusions or exclusion, or taking things away from that. If we do, we lose ourselves. And I just want to say something as well, very, very quickly here. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. It was my mistake about the title. For some reason, I thought the law, and I had written down the right name for the fear of death, which you can do next week. But it was my mistake. I apologize to everyone who was expecting to have a different talk. So apologies for that. Next week we'll have fear of death and old
no
age.
Harm done. I'm sure people enjoyed it, and we can talk about that some other time. I'll just make some quick announcements before we go. So we have the Gabriel Delan series. So every first Sunday of the month, we get a special guest to talk about one of Delan's work. So next one is going to be on the 3rd of September from 7 to 8 p.m. UK time. We will have with us Carolina Correa. We also have study of the book Heaven and Hell and Gospel According to Spiritism, organized by the Spiritist Center for Peace every Wednesday, 12 noon UK time. We have a study of the Mediums book on Saturdays. The study is coordinated by Guilherme Dias, Charles Kempf here with us, and myself. So every Saturday, 10:30 a.m., you're most welcome to join us. And thanks to Kardec Radio for letting us use the StreamYard studio. So this is what we have for today. I'll just ask Silvia to say a few final words before we go, and then Charles.
Okay, thank you everyone for being with us, and let's think and meditate ourselves in what we said and try to make our changes. And thank you very much, Munir, for stepping in at such a short
Pleasure.
notice. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here. And
Thanks.
Thank you, Charles, as well. Always learning from you. And may God bless each and every one of you who is listening to us. We'll be listening to this afterwards. And, if you're interested in anything, send us questions. Let us know what you want us to discuss. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thanks, Silvia.
Thanks a lot, Silvia. Thanks a lot, Munir. Really, this golden rule, we know it in Christianity at least since 2000 years, even more through other religions like Hinduism, probably more than 2000 years. It has been clearly recalled and reminded and explained in a rational way more than 1.5 centuries ago. So what are we waiting for? Let's go for it. So may God bless all of you and have a nice week, and we'll be very happy to meet you again next week.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless Silvia. God bless Charles. God bless
you.
everyone.
God
Bye-bye.
bless.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Keep well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.